What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Mohawk Motors. My name is Jason. So we're on to our second project of the day. A good friend of mine called me, said when she hits the brakes it's making a funny noise in her 2007 Honda Civic. So we're gonna get this thing checked out and see what's going on with the brakes. Oh, no we don't. Can you hear that? That's got a pretty good grind at the right front. I'm pretty sure we're gonna find some metal to metal contact in there. Yeah, actually it might be right and left, both fronts. So, yeesh. Yeah, that's a pretty good grind. All right, well, let's get this thing jacked up, get the wheels off, and see what we can find. Okay, so I can see metal filings. I don't know if they show up on the camera, but we've got real fine metal filings over here on the driver's side. The outside is okay. I mean, that pad is at the end of its life. It definitely needs to be changed. But if you can see in here, the inside, we definitely have metal to metal contact on the inside. So I'm gonna have to get this side torn apart and make sure it hasn't gotten into the piston. And before we know exactly what we need on this side, let's check the passenger side. Okay, so passenger side, the outer pad looks a little thinner. We don't have any metal shavings. The inside of the rotor has a pretty strong lip, but it doesn't feel like we've got metal to metal yet. So let's get the calipers pulled off and see what else we need. If you've never done this before, you need a pry bar, small one, and a 12mm socket or 12mm wrench, doesn't really matter which. So when I do this, I get inside first with my pry bar and I pull the caliper outward. This compresses the piston. It'll make it easier to get the caliper off of the rotor. And once I get that pulled out a little bit, there's two 12mm bolts, one at the top, one at the bottom. Now you may have what I have happening right here. So the bolt goes through the caliper right here, and then it threads into this slide. Now the slide has square shoulders on it, and if you can see, when I turn the bolt, it's turning the slide. So I'm gonna need to get a wrench. I believe it's about a 17mm wrench. Fits over this square, and that'll hold the slide still so I can get the bolt unscrewed out of it. Okay, I'm back. I was wrong. It's actually a 3/4 inch wrench. Fits that little square of the slide the best. So I'm gonna use my wrench to hold that square part still, and then tap, bang. Now I can just unscrew my little caliper retaining bolt. Like that. Both bolts out. Slide my caliper off. I'm just gonna lean it here between the spindle and the knuckle. Let's see how our pads look here. This side, pads look okay. They're, well, not okay. They're definitely worn out. I mean, there's less than a 1/16 of pad left on the inside. So that one was about to start grinding. And the outside pad had about a 1/16 left. So definitely time for brake pads on the front of this thing. And it's got a pretty thick lip at the edge here. So I'm gonna recommend rotors also. Let's see how the other side looks. And yep, there's our grinding culprit. The inside caliper on this side. You can see it didn't wear quite flat. It's gotten into the metal here at the, what was the top of the pad. The outside pad still looks, it's got about a 1/16 of pad left, so we're gonna need a rotor for sure on this side, a new set of front brake pads. I'm going to recommend just doing both front rotors due to the lip on the other side. And then let's check the back and make sure the back brakes look good. Okay, at the back of the car we have drum brakes. In my experience, especially on these, you know, compact size cars, you'll go through 2 to 3 pairs of front brake pads before it's time for rear brake shoes in the drum brakes. And that's looking to be true on this one. I mean, these brake shoes, they've still got tons of life left. There's still about a 1/4 inch of material on those. So this side looks great. I'll double check the other side just to be sure. And then we'll get the parts we need ordered so we can get this thing put back together for her. Yeah, it'll come off. There we go. Almost there. There it comes. There we go. Okay, and exactly what I was expecting. This side still got over a 1/4 inch of shoe material left on also. So the rear brakes are good to go. We'll just get the the brake pads and rotors for the front, and we'll get this thing put back together, fixed up, and ready to go. All right, everybody, so ran down to the auto parts store, got the parts we need. Now we got to just get the new rotors put on, get the new pads put on, and this thing should be ready to go again. So if you've never replaced a rotor on one of these before, first thing you need to do is get the brake caliper bracket off, and it has 2 17mm bolts on the inside here. You take those 2 bolts off, and then you pull these 2 Phillips head screws out. And hopefully your rotor's not seized to the hub, and you just pull it off. But if you need to, you can use these 2 screws and the other 2 holes to push the rotor off. There we go. There we go. Now, just like that. Try not to let your brake caliper hang. There we go. Alright, there's our old rotor off. Now I always try to touch the actual braking surface as little as possible. Alright, well I guess we're not putting the little screws back in. You really don't need to. They're just there from the factory. I think they do it to make sure that the rotors don't move during the assembly line. So we can take our caliper bracket, get this put back where it goes. I generally don't use anti-seize on these bolts. Okay, so our old one had these taper, and that's what we're going to put back on. The one with the little squeaker goes on the inside. The one without the squeaker goes on the outside. Get our calibrated brake caliper compressing tool. Just kidding, guys. It's just a C-clamp. It's not a special tool. And very slowly squeeze the piston back into the brake caliper. And we put our brake caliper back on its bracket. All right, this side's ready to have, just get a quick wipe down with some brake clean, and then we'll put the wheel back on. Let's do the other side the same way. Okay, we've got our new pads and rotors on both sides on the front. I gave both sides a good wipe down with some brake clean and a nice clean rag. So I'll get the wheels put back on it, get it down on the ground, pump the brakes back up, and then take it for a test drive. Make sure everything's working the way it should be. So, next thing we need to do is pump the brakes back up. If you remember from when we did brakes on the surplus Suburban, when we fully collapse the brake caliper like that, it's not pushing the pads against the rotor. They're not at the right preload. So it's very important that once you get everything put back together, you pump the brake pedal until it pushes those pads up against the rotors again. And you'll feel it because the brake pedal will get hard to push. So there we go. I've got it pumped back up where they should be. Let's take this thing for a test drive, make sure everything works right. Okay, well, test drive went exactly how I expected it to. Everything working right, no issues, no problems. So this job is done also. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. If you liked this video and you'd like to see more like it, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It also helps me out. And thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.